McLaren promised something a little different for the next iteration in its Expand in Sports Series range, and it didn't disappoint. This is the new 570 GT, and it's unlike anything else available today. Instead of going for something typical like a convertible to follow the recently released 570S sports car, the British brand has created its most refined model yet, a unique take on the Grand Tourer concept. The company famous for loud, fast Formula 1 cars has built what it calls its quietest and most spacious car yet. The most striking feature is this 220-litre touring deck that sits behind the seats and above the engine, accessed from a side-opening rear glass hatch. And they're just some of the refinements that make this the most practical car McLaren claims it's ever built. In fact, the company goes so far as to say this thing has everyday usability. For starters, the cabin gets increased sound deadening and specially developed Pirelli P0 tyres to make the cabin a quieter place. It also gets the luxury interior package, which includes some clever small item storages like these hidden door pockets, and it's even got a glove box. Now all up, that actually makes it quite a comfortable and practical car to be inside. Certainly it's not as quiet as, say, a regular sedan, but by supercar standards, this thing is actually a very relaxed environment to be in. But as comfortable and refined as the GT may be, it's still meant to be a proper sports car. So McLaren has retained the same 3.8-litre twin-turbo V8 engine used in the 570S, and tuned it to produce 420 kilowatts of power and 600 newton meters of torque. It's paired with the same 7-speed dual-clutch transmission as the 570S too. Once you get on the road though, it really does feel like a supercar despite all this talk of refinement. The engine feels really strong, it's got great pulling power right across the rev range. It doesn't make the best sound you find in a supercar compared to something like, Ferrari or even Audi with its big V10. It just lacks that real impact on the senses. Where the 570 GT really impresses is just the way it rides and handles. The suspension, although it's softer than what you get in the 570S, you'd hardly call it soft, and yet for a supercar, it's incredibly compliant. Even on some of these Spanish roads we've tackled today that have been pretty average and actually quite, relative to what we get in Australia, they're actually quite representative. This thing feels really comfortable to be inside. Even after, half a day behind the wheel, I feel perfectly at home. I'm happy to drive this thing long distances like a true GT car. But even though they've softened it up, it isn't soft. It's still really sharp once you actually throw it at some bends, and it's a really, really engaging machine to be in. It really does have the best of both worlds. That livability, but also it's a heck of a lot of fun. The 570 GT is due to arrive in Australia in the final quarter of 2016, priced from just over $400,000. That will put it up against the likes of the Porsche 911 Turbo and Audi R8. Even up against those more established names, the 570 GT stacks up well. It may not be a conventional Grand Tourer, but it is a good one.